I know this is kind of odd, but I had one question, and that is, where does all the plumbing go?
Hello and welcome to episode 103 of the Lazy Couch Podcast. We're here to give you all you need to know about consumer tech, the internet, and all of the Marvel superheroes. My name is Geoff Kim, and I'm slapping the bass, man.
My name is Kelvin Lee, and Geoff, keep it together.
Oh my god. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
I actually changed my intro
Did
for
you?
that.
Oh,
I
wow.
did.
That's ad-libbing.
I know, just for you.
So professional after 103 episodes.
I know, and we're still getting feedback, so we're going to talk about that in a second. But how's your week been?
Ooh, a bit better. A lot better, actually, in fact. I'm walking around almost pain-free. For a little bit, both feet were kind of sore, I think more like yesterday. But yeah, today's been good. We won't go into my health issues so much, but yep, all ready to go.
Yeah, you almost retired from a football player into a coach, so,
Yeah, that happened.
that's a big step.
That happened, yeah. How about you?
No, good. So this week we got some feedback from Podcast VA, which is a podcast network on Facebook. So the person behind the account basically said that they had a quick listen to our last episode, and apparently our intro has too much small talk. And
like this
to help
right now,
rectify, just like this right now, to rectify this, we should just tell people about what's coming up, and I think we should give that a go.
Let's do it.
And you've been receiving SMS texts about the show as well.
Yes. So okay, I haven't had the balls to do this yet, but the person that's been texting me, and I know you're gonna be hearing this. I actually don't have your number on my contact list, so I actually don't know who you are.
There is in your defense though, there is no right way of saying, because once you've gone down too far the rabbit hole, there is no way of going.
Now I've done
Hey,
it, haven't I have a feeling I know who it is, but I just haven't had the guts, so apologies. But anyway, your feedback was around what the new format was, because if you think about it, we haven't really mentioned it too much, right? Since we've been back since around episode 98.
Yeah.
So
I think we should go through it now and then go through it at the start of every episode. So do you wanna have a go at that?
Yeah, basically, what we do to prep for the show is like find a bunch of clips. It could be through YouTube or just any news channel. It can be a little bit hard with the lack of proper tech news out there, but I think we've been doing a pretty good job at that. And once we play that back on the show, we'll talk about it. We'll analyze that. We talk about how the message is being sort of spread out as well.
Yeah, exactly. From different news sources, and sometimes your go-to tech channel if you like them. And so we're going through all these different people, different YouTube stars, even the major news networks like CNBC. We go through them so you don't have to, and we cover the entire sort of spectrum of the news piece, or even a review like what we're about to do today.
Right, so today's a little bit out of the ordinary because we're going to be go a little bit geek today and cover Ant-Man and the Wasp, the latest MCU movie. We haven't done one of these for a while.
Yeah,
so we're going to see how it goes with the clips as well.
Yeah, so it was a lucky sort of chance contest I signed us up into, and I won 2 tickets. The question was
it really 2 tickets though, Kelvin?
I know I messed up there, so sorry to Punky Magazine, everyone. So we're not big celebrities. We weren't given tickets or anything. It just so happened I found a competition online, and the question was, if you were Ant-Man for a day, what would you do? And I said I would ride my cat and see what she did all day, and I won. I don't think they were reading the answers. So yeah, this is how we got into this, and we enjoyed it. So here's what we got to say about it.
So it's going to be 30 minutes of all Ant-Man and the Wasp here. We probably will do a full spoiler from the very beginning. What do you reckon?
Should we do just a minute of spoiler-free?
Okay.
So that, for anyone who hasn't watched, Ant-Man, you can turn off after the next minute and you can get a rough feel of what kind of movie it is.
All right, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
So this is the spoiler-free part. I guess we can talk about the actors and the performances to start off with. Obviously, Paul Rudd is back as the Ant-Man, Scott Lang.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
see anyone else being, Scott now. I mean, he's made it his own. So,
mhm.
pretty much a carryover from the first Ant-Man. Still funny. Not as much. You won't be seeing him as much in this movie because they're introducing new characters.
Yeah, and in the title itself, the Wasp is in there, so that's Evangeline Lilly playing Hope Pym. And she's a lot more involved. I think I was actually listening to one of our early episodes, number 24, and where we covered a little bit of the first Ant-Man. That was
Yeah.
2015.
Wow.
That's kind of incredible. Yeah, and you were just saying when I was listening back to it that she didn't feature at all. You wanted more of
Yeah,
Hope Pym.
and we got a lot of Hope Pym in
Mm.
this movie, and I thought she was great. I didn't really enjoy her acting as much in the 2015 Ant Man, and I might listen back to episode 24 just to see what I didn't like. But I remember not liking it. But in this one, I think she really stepped up. And fun fact, it's the first female lead in a Marvel movie, so a lot of weight on her shoulders, and I think she carried it off.
That's right. Of course, she's the daughter of Hank Pym,
Mm.
the the amazing scientist that has created the Pym particles to make you either very small or very big.
Mm.
Michael Douglas, both current, old, and young again.
De-aged.
The de aging technology actually was a lot improved. I thought, especially Michelle Pfeiffer. The very first scene, one of the first scenes, I think it was the flashback where, Janet Van Dyne and Hank Pym in the 80s, I believe it was, go for the last time, go on this mission to save the world, and she gets stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah, and I think the technology has come so far where you can actually put it in an action sequence and not some just slow talking sequence, which is testament to the technology they have now.
Yes, those are the main guys. Of course, Scott's daughter Cassie is back as
Mm.
well. It's the same
Hmm.
actor from 3 years ago, but she was great. Her name is Abby Ryder Fortson.
Yeah.
A little bit about her later on, I think, because
Yes.
there's a bit of a callback and a view to the future. I think.
Yes. And Michael Panian's back, providing the comedic element to it. I think he was a favorite of ours back in episode 24. And
Hmm.
he pretty much carries on the same character, which is if anything, that is my general feel about this movie. It's just a nice carry on from the first one.
That's right. A couple of new characters here. So I think everyone we mentioned just now is all recurring from the first movie, actually. But we had a villain. According to the trailers, it was the main villain, Ghost, played by Hannah Kamen.
Mm.
John Kamen. She plays a super villain of sorts that can phase through walls.
Yes, and for the keen-eyed Game of Thrones fans, you'll recognize her from Game of Thrones.
I actually thought she was from also Black Mirror in some of the episodes.
Ah, is it?
Um, yes, I can't remember which one though. Lawrence Fishburne is in this one. He plays Bill Foster, Dr. Bill Foster, who used to be a partner of Hank Pym back in the day at Shield.
Yes, and if you are big into the comic books, he plays Goliath in this MCU universe. And another fun fact, also one of the very few actors who has done both DC and MCEU movies. So that's fun.
How does he sleep with
I
himself?
don't know.
Sleep with himself? Does he? Okay. Sleep at night, I think is the sleep at
Yes,
night. I think that's
but
the correct
I
phrasing
think we
there.
just have our intro.
There we go. Randall Park, um, the stock Asian these days.
Yes. Yeah.
He played the
I
FBI agent Jimmy Woo.
Yeah, who is also a long-standing Marvel character in the comic books. Um, I didn't mind him at all. I thought they played his. There was a fine balance. I mean, he has this running joke. We're not going to tell you too much with Scott in the movie. I would say it almost went into too much of they were really going and recycling the same joke over and over again, or the same
Mhm.
type of joke. So I thought he was okay, memorable. I thought.
But he's like literally everywhere. He's the stock standard Asian that's in every movie. If you need an Asian, call Randall Park.
Or the Korean guy from Lost.
Wally Goggin is the next one I'm going to call out. He plays a black market arms dealer called Sonny
Yeah,
Birch. Also, another callback to the comics. I think it's a bit of a deep cut, that one.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, he was. I think obviously we can't spoil too much until the second bit of this episode, but I think what he plays a good enough of a sort of a grade B villain.
hmm
But I think what he says and does in this will set up certain things in the next Avengers.
sure. Last one. I think I have to get. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the clip because it could be potentially spoilery. So I'm going to save it. I was going to play it, but I won't. Yeah. So Elias
Yeah,
Starr. He was only featured in the one of the past scenes, but Elias Starr is his name, and he's actually the father of Ghost.
that's right.
Yeah, but in the comics, he's Egghead.
Yeah, quite possibly the worst villain in Marvel Comics of all time.
Apparently so.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about Peyton Reed as well because this is his second time now. This is 100% his movie. The first one he had to sort of fight it out with Edgar Wright in a way because Edgar Wright was on the project for most of the time. Just before
Hmm.
shooting, 2 months before shooting, he kind of like bailed because there were some differences with the studio. But I thought he did a pretty good job. Kept I think better pacing as well, obviously because it's 100% his movie.
Yeah, and no need to set up, no origin, needed for this movie. Everyone knows who Ant Man is, and it was quite fun listening to Peyton Reed talk about, um, Edgar Wright, and people forget that Ant Man was written at the same time as Iron Man 1,
Mm, that's right.
more than 10 years ago. So it is a long time coming, and I'm happy that Ant Man and Ant Man the Wasp have their own standing now. And I almost felt like they made that a thing in Ant Man the Wasp, where they separated the movie from the main MCU universe, because there's very little mention of the Avengers, and if you haven't watched the Avengers or even Black Panther or the other movies, I feel like you could still enjoy this movie.
Absolutely. This is a standalone. Everyone's saying that this is the MCU movie it had to have, after the events of Avengers: Infinity War. So it's quite lighthearted. It's not as big scale. It's mostly about family and how to keep your promises and listening to the people you love. Really,
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of the core, the theme of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like it's the best comic book movie for people who don't like comic books. So
Mm.
I feel like you could take
Mm.
your partner, who isn't into gaming or comic books, or you could take your kids. It's family friendly. It's a comedy. It's more comedy than action. I feel it's not dark. It's not like a Superman movie. It's not like the Last Avengers. I know. But it is also one of the most unbelievable Marvel movies. You know what I mean? People are shrinking,
In terms of the
big and
science,
small and things like. Yeah, and let's not even
yeah.
mention the word science. I think you just made the word dirty.
Okay. Science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the? I mean, the abilities have been covered. Do we need to talk about Ghost's abilities at all? I mean, like, yeah, you'll have to watch the movie. They'll be, her origins and the character's origins will be explained, which I thought was
Yeah.
one of the bad parts of the movie, like all the exposition stuff that happened. But yeah, in general, pretty. I would say like three and a half stars. 2 hours of just pure entertainment, bit of Paul Rudd,
Yeah.
good fight scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, go in, definitely go in, and I think everyone says this, not don't expect too much from the villain, and I think you'll have a good time. I enjoyed watching the movie, I didn't really slack off, or start thinking about the expositions or the story plots too much. It was just a fun ride, and I agree. It's a good DVD movie, if anything, like a really good DVD movie. But I think you won't lose too much by watching it in the cinema. People were clapping in our session at some scenes. There's
Mm.
some LOL moments, so it's that kind of movie. A good fun ride.
All right. Are we spoilering this now?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
I feel
yeah,
like we I
it's
feel like we
definitely.
need a mid break clip. Yeah. Okay. So after you hear ants, 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 warning: you are about to enter full of spoiler section of this review. So you have been warned.
Ants! Ants! Spiders!
That's a good one. Good follow up to that one.
All right. Well, okay. Where should we start?
Well, I think
Yeah.
we'll start at the very beginning. Uh, they we just spoke about the de aging scenes, which I thought were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that got me was they showed Lawrence Fishburne. I think this is a later part of the movie where they got his son to play a
That's
younger
right.
version of Lawrence Fishburne. Why didn't they just
Mm-hmm.
de-age him as well? So they had Langston Fishburne, great name by the way, play his Lawrence, the younger version of Lawrence, and I didn't get
Mm.
that. Like it's like someone lost a bet, or he really wanted his son in the movie, which I thought was quite odd.
I feel like there was another example like that recently, and we may have talked about it in another episode. But maybe that's just the theme. I feel like they de-aged him a little bit too much because I don't know how much younger his son is, but like it was almost like Lawrence Fishburne's very first movie. Do you know what it was?
No,
Apocalypse Now.
really?
So I think that was like what early '80s. So
Yeah,
maybe it kind of fits in with that. But like he looked very very young in that movie. Like he was almost like a teenager. Um,
that's so interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think they went too far because I think it was meant to be like '89
Hmm.
maybe. Um, anyhow. Yeah, I love that Michelle Pfeiffer. That I think out of all the de aging things that have happened over the last 2 years, that was by far the best effort.
I
You
mean,
know,
I was
compare
quite
that to
Yeah, you
yeah,
go.
compare that to Princess Leia.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, yeah. Even the '80s hairstyle, just everything about it. Like that was Michelle Pfeiffer. Like you couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, and you know what? Initially, I was concerned when we found out that Michelle Pfeiffer was casted for this movie. I've, I mean, I've always found her to be good in sort of dramatic movies, but to be in a comedy slash action comic book movie, I was kind of concerned. But I didn't mind Michelle Pfeiffer at all. The latter scenes were not as good as the '80s scenes. I felt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Speaking of de aging, though, there could be a bit of a thing coming up. I know you're not gonna like this, but I'm gonna play this clip, Kelvin. Are you prepared for it?
Emergency, awesome.
Clip was also kind of funny too because Fury and Coulson will appear during the Captain Marvel movie. Kevin Feige revealed that it would be set entirely during the past. They would spend the entire movie with special de-aging technology. So if you went to see Ant-Man this weekend, there was a brief flashback where they show Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer when they're young. It looked amazing. Imagine them doing an entire movie with Coulson and Nick Fury being de-aged like that.
Yeah. So if they're using the same technology, and I think that what is inferring is that Samuel L. Jackson will, like, pretty much for the whole movie, not just one scene, will be in this de-aged mode.
Yeah, with two eyes.
Imagine that for a whole movie.
I mean, they have the tech, right? I think this is, you're right. I mean, this Ant-Man and the Wasp is the movie before Captain Marvel, which is the movie before Avengers.
Yeah.
So it's all lining up. I think every year the tech just keeps getting better and better. So why not?
Yeah, and the thing about Coulson is that I don't think you need to de-age him because
No.
like I think he's been like that for years.
Yeah, he's like a vampire.
Yeah, so Captain Marvel is the next MCU movie coming down the line. I believe it's March next year, just about a month before uh, Avengers Endgame. Is that what it's going to be called?
I don't know. I wouldn't put too much. I wouldn't put bet too much on what the next Avengers is going to be called. But the funny thing is, Captain Marvel will
Hmm.
be based in the '80s, but so will the next Wonder Woman, which has come out to be
Ah,
WW '84 or '89 or something like that.
no, nothing to do with Taylor Swift. No, Wonder Woman is I think 84. I think you were right about that. But Captain
Okay,
Marvel is actually
okay.
the 90s.
Oh, 90s. Okay, okay. So 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Yeah,
But did you know that even in the first Ant-Man, they were like, if you watch the scenes again, the little like hints about Captain Marvel. Because like I think she was known,
really?
yes. Because I think those scenes, in the past, the previous scenes where you have the de-aged Michael Douglas, I think it was the very first scene in the first movie. Yeah, there were almost hints of a superpowered female. I could be a little bit wrong on that, but maybe too
Hey,
many
hey.
YouTube videos late at nights. But yeah, I think yeah, all of this. The point is like the MCU for the last, oh my god, 10 years and 20 movies. I think this was the 20th movie. They've just been laying the grounds, laying little what do you call them, like Easter eggs,
Breadcrumbs.
um, breadcrumbs. Yeah, breadcrumbs is probably better, and hints to all the things coming up, which is I think quite amazing. In fact, I have another clip from Iron Man 2, which is gonna sort of segue into one of the scenes from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Would you like to hear that?
Yeah.
Yes, let's do it.
I need some stuff out of storage. Give me everything from projects Pegasus, Exodus, and Goliath.
I was partners with Hank on a project called Goliath.
How big did you get?
My record, 21 feet. You?
65 feet.
65.
Size matters. No, so the first part was Tony Stark in Iron Man 2. And did you catch it there? Like he was like, I think he rattled off 3 project names. One of them was Goliath. And yeah, and then you heard Bill Foster talking about his previous project Goliath as well.
Yeah. So in the comic books, Goliath dies, and it sparks off the whole Civil War issue again. So yeah, Goliath is not a small character. Pun intended.
In the comic books, it's also Bill Foster. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. What else can we say? Yes, I think. I mean, should we go into the mid-credit scene there now?
Yeah, I think let's go straight into that, and talk about the two credit scenes that you have to wait for.
Mm-hmm. If we want a description, I can play another clip, or we can just talk about it.
No, play the clips, man. Keep them coming.
Keep it coming. Here we go.
The first mid-credits scene shows Scott Lang entering the quantum realm to gather some quantum healing energy, but then he gets trapped in the quantum realm when Hope and Frank and Janet have dusted out of existence. It's the immediate aftermath of Thanos' snap at the end of Infinity War.
Probably.
Now, the second post-credits scene is a little more straightforward. It shows Scott's empty house with an emergency broadcast signal on the TV and an oversized ant playing drums that we saw in the trailer.
Yeah, dusted away. So that was
Who is
actually... Oh, that's New Rockstars. Probably one of my favorite channels to do with geek culture. Yeah. Yeah, it was sort of a panel thing, and I thought that was a quick 22-second clip of or a description of what happened in the post-credit scenes. Now, yeah, there were 2 scenes. So in the mid-credit, Scott Lang gets stuck, obviously, and then the audience finds out that the other 3 have dusted away. And I think at the session that we were at, that had a pretty big reaction, especially from the guy behind us. Yeah,
like the really old nerd sitting behind us and his friends. So it was the only connection that movie had to Infinity War, which I found I didn't enjoy.
We were all waiting for it, right?
Yeah, but I didn't enjoy it at all. Then it made me question why Ant-Man and the Wasp weren't helping the Avengers in the first place.
Depends like how much time had passed from the actual movie to the mid-credit scene, I think. So, the movie played out, way before Thanos and, the Dark Children, whatever they're called, not invades, but comes to New York for the first time with the big ring. That would have, I guess, happened between the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie and the mid-credit scene, right?
Right. So the Ant-Man and the Wasp was 2 years after Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
When did the Infinity War take place in the MCU?
So it's, I think, around the same time, but just not exactly, right? So
Got you.
yeah, I think it's probably maybe like a month out, I would say, if I had to guess. Unfortunately, MCU doesn't. I mean, they give you hints about the timeline. Like you might see in the background, you might see a calendar date or, something like that. But no one's really picked that up just yet. But yeah, I mean, you just have to sort of suspend your sense of time just a little bit and just kind of go with it, really.
And I mean, Hank Pym and Tony Stark and Mr. Fantastic in the comic books, they're the smartest men alive in the comic book universe. So it wouldn't surprise me that there is a gap between them ending Ant-Man the Wasp and that credit scene, and maybe Hank Pym is working with the Avengers on something else with that quantum energy. Maybe it's not just to heal
All right. Okay.
Ghost. I mean, that's one of my theories.
Okay. I mean, there's two ways of looking at that last bit, because I think when I came out of it, I thought, yes, they were helping Ghost. But the other way to think about it is like when Janet came out and the first thing she did was help Ghost. That's when she lost all her energy by, I guess, healing her.
Right.
So the quantum, so they took, they sent Scott Lang to fetch some more energy cells.
Yeah, and I know it's for exposition. I know it's convenient, but why send Scott? Like, why wouldn't you send Janet? Right? I mean, she was there for 30 years. She would have known that place a lot better than Scott. That's the other thing I can't figure out.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe he's the youngest, strongest kind of thing. But also, like, why wouldn't you, why wouldn't, as Scott, why wouldn't you go down without a means to come back himself as well?
Because he knows how to come back.
The first time, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
That's a really good point.
But yeah, I think massive signal to what the next phase might be. How I think the start of Avengers Endgame could really be from that scene.
Yeah,
because there are hints of time travel. There were mentions in Bill Foster's lecture that multi-universes can be created if you're not too careful playing around in these places.
Yeah, and like you said with the earlier sort of Marvel movies setting things up in Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange was warned that if you time travel, you're going to create branches in time, creating unstable universes. So it is possible that Ant-Man could end up in one of these unstable universes, speaking to somebody that can help him out with Thanos.
So we've all seen those, set images of Avengers 4. So Ant-Man actually appears in the, what looks to be a recreation of New York for the first Avengers movie, because Captain's got his old suit. I think Mark Ruffalo is also there. But you see Ant-Man in his suit, and also the current Tony Stark, not in his Iron Man suit, but in his thing, the nanoparticle suit.
The new suit. I see what you mean. What I
not the
really,
Iron Man one, but before he becomes Iron Man.
Yeah, the new that one. What I really want to see happen is because Scott can become Ant-Man and he's basically invisible, but for him to live out the entire MCU 10 movie universe as Ant-Man in his small version, and you don't see him, but he's been monitoring everything and learning everything, and living that out, and then going to the end and showing Iron Man how it's done and what he needs to do to save the universe. I think that would be fun.
Yep. The other thing is Scott's daughter, Cassie. So, there was a scene that, a whole 5 minutes of Scott and Cassie when he's still under house arrest, just using, cardboard and lots of stuff to, one, have fun, but also pretend that they're superheroes, like some sort of partnership together, right? So that's one thing, one hint of the future, but also, she even says herself in one of the scenes that she wants to help people when she grows up, and she wants to be a superhero. So I think we talked about this in the very early episode 24 as well. She, what's her name? Cassie Lang grows up to be in the Young Avengers.
That's right.
Which is mooted for Phase 4 of the MCU, which is coming up. And apparently as part of the Avengers 4 cast calling, there's an older Cassie Lang that's been cast.
That's right, a 16-year-old. I don't remember her name now, but it does. Everyone is. There are rumors that they will jump in time, 5 years. So that is one evidence of that.
I see. Did you want to play any clips or?
There is. I think back to our Michael Douglas sort of chat. The criticism of Michael Douglas in the first movie was that he just made up so many sciencey type things, and he kept saying quantum and quantum and quantum. So there's a great video that I'm going to share in the show notes from Screen Junkies where they talk to Peyton Reed about this, and this is what he has to say about that.
Movie is a walking exposition machine, and one of the things that I promised Michael in the second movie is we're going to give you, you've seen it, slightly less pseudoscience to talk about, and another promise I made is we're going to actually give you a couple of jokes in this movie and actually some real action like that's crucial to the plot.
Well, they call out the science talk in
yeah, and that's always the sort of the Rudd thing is being a step behind in terms of the science and hopefully echoing how the audience is feeling about it. But
someone's got to do it, because every Marvel movie, like, it's not just there's Norse gods. It's like, well, what you call magic is actually science. Like, all right,
walk over here with me and look at the chalkboard. I mean, but if you're gonna do it, to hear it come out of Michael Douglas's mouth is the way to do it.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that. I think Michael Douglas's acting is, he's got a good voice and he's a great actor, but that was reduced, like expositions. I mean, he still said a lot of mumbo jumbo.
There's a scene which I think was one of my favorite scenes or bits where Scott actually goes, "Do you just put the word quantum in front of everything?"
Which is kind of true.
Yeah. Walking exposition machine. That's Michael Douglas. I love it. Was that from the video where Peyton Reed breaks down the the Honest Trailer?
Yes,
thing?
yes,
that's
the one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
I think I recognize that. There's another video going around because Peyton Reed's just been, playing up the whole nerd YouTube market. I think so. He's appearing everywhere. Vanity Fair magazine actually has a series of videos where they invite directors of recent movies and they talk about a particular scene and they just kind of like break it down in like 15 minutes in great detail. So one of the action scenes was in the kitchen, and I think this is available unfortunately on the internet. Like you can actually watch this whole 10-minute scene, but this is how Peyton Reed describes that scene with the Wasp fighting the bad guys.
Part of it is not just demonstrating her shrinking and growing and flying capabilities. Evangeline and I talked a lot about her fighting style, that it was very precise and decisive and lethal, really giving the audience the idea that she's been waiting a long time to do this, and now that the time has come, that she really kind of enjoys it, and she can take care of business.
Hey, question. How old do you think Peyton Reed is?
Ooh, 47.
I think you're kind of close-ish. I think he's in his 50s. I think he was born in 63, I think. But he doesn't look it, right? He just,
No.
He's quite sharp. He's done, some funny movies over the years. Yes Man was one. But he has a certain sensibility. I think, he kind of puts himself out there to be like one of the fans, I think. And I think this is actually helping with the marketing of the movie as well, because the criticism of last time was it was very disjointed. There was not much flow. You could almost tell that there were two directors involved here. But yeah, he's been going out talking about it and like explaining things in a way that nerds really understand and can appreciate.
He hasn't actually done anything between Ant-Man 1 and Ant-Man 2, and there was a 3-year gap.
Yeah, he's done a bit of TV, but in terms of films, I think you're right there. I think we're probably out of clips, but I don't know. What's your last comment, or what's the lasting feeling about this movie?
like the villain was definitely weak. I think coming off Thanos, it was a real letdown.
Was there an actual villain though? Who was a villain? Who's the villain in your eyes?
Ghost.
Ghost, but she doesn't become a villain. You know what I mean? She's not.
Yeah, totally.
She was marketed that way, but if anything, it was Wally Goggin, right?
That's true.
Sonny Birch.
Yeah.
Or you could argue Bill Foster as well. I
Yeah.
think the stakes weren't very high, and there was no real villain. But the situation they were all in, like you sort of felt the urgency. At some points, I really felt like Scott was in like a Dexter-like situation. So if you watch, Dexter the series, which is one of my all-time favorite series, as you know, he just gets into situations and like you just think, how is he going to get out? And I felt like Scott was in some of those moments.
Yeah,
without the stakes being too high.
Yeah, I think they also, I mean, unlike the first Ant-Man, they played him down way too much. Like he was just some dude in a suit who had some superficial powers. There was no focus on his more natural abilities, his thieving skills, his parkour skills and things like that. And it was all just a focus on the Wasp, which it was good because Evangelina did a very good job, but it was more Wasp than Ant-Man.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the action scenes, I don't think Paul Rudd did anything. I mean, like, he wouldn't have, but, like, Scott Lang, the character, apart from the street scene where it becomes, like, a semi-giant, sort of using a pickup truck as a I don't know, like a skateboard. Apart from that, did he have any action scenes? I don't think he did.
There were a couple, but nothing memorable, like you said, right? I mean, even in the trailers, it was all the Wasp. The other thing I think they're building up to, like, we just mentioned the way the Marvel Universe likes to sprinkle these little breadcrumbs, is I'm almost sure that Hank Pym will work with Tony Stark in the next Avengers. I don't know how. I know Hank Pym is no longer part of the universe because of the Thanos snap, but there are little scenes like, how that building that goes large and small, large and small. If you look really carefully, the thing powering that building is a large Duracell battery. So he's supersizing things to suit his needs. So unlike, Tony, who has unlimited cash and money, Hank Pym has to be quite creative to suit his needs. I know this is kind of odd, but I had one question, and that is, where does all the plumbing go?
Yeah. Yes, good point.
Weird. I know, weird, but he must have shrunk it and put it somewhere. The other thing that really bothered me was there are scenes where she's shooting and making things small and big, and we're talking about the Wasp here. There is no need to make a giant Hello Kitty Petzl thing and throw it out when you can just shrink everyone and anyone who's chasing you.
Right. Oh, that's a bit cruel though.
Yeah, I guess
she's not like that. Yeah.
It's creative thinking, but there's a lot of power to shrink things and people, and the movie would be over in about 4.5 minutes if you just did that.
And yeah, I mean, like, if you want to go down that road, I mean, like, what are the laws regarding like what actually goes small with you? Because, like, it seems like it's always the clothes that you're wearing, or like if you throw the same thing to a whole building, like everything, the building as well as everything inside the building gets smaller. You know what I mean? Like, what are the rules governing that?
Yeah. On that note, I have a great clip from How It Should Have Ended from the first Ant-Man that I'll play in the outro, just explaining that just because you reduce the size of something doesn't mean you reduce its weight as well. If you want to get all sciencey about it. But I think that defeats the whole purpose of Ant-Man, and I think we should wrap it up now. It is unbelievable. It is kind of following the same formula as Ant-Man 1. Did you prefer 1 or this one?
I think definitely this one, I would say. Yeah.
I think I preferred 1. I think there were a couple of little things, like, they introduced Falcon and there was a battle scene, and that was fun. You could have used a little bit more of that, a couple of more surprises. I felt it was a safe formula. I felt that, a lot of the jokes were recycled, especially that, Michael Pena scene where, he just ad-libs everything with the whole truth serum and everything. It is recycled.
Oh, wait, I got to talk about my favorite bit. I got to talk about my favorite bit.
Okay. Take over.
I haven't done it yet. So inside the lab, I think this is when they're close to communing with Michelle Pfeiffer. Paul actually does Pfeiffer. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So you know when, just before they're about to go in, or Michael Douglas is about to go into the quantum realm. So there's that bit where, what would you call it? Like he becomes
he was
Michelle
possessed.
Pfeiffer's character. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
That got the biggest laugh, I think.
Yeah. That scene was amazing, right? The scene where he was, inverted commas, possessed.
Possessed, that's it.
Possessed by Michelle Pfeiffer. There are some really good comedic elements like that, so I definitely kind of felt it for that.
Okay, all right. Let's wrap it up then.
Yeah. So overall, I enjoyed it. I think if it's a good sort of Sunday night movie, go and have fun with the family, friends, and kids. Don't worry about the Avengers. Don't worry about the comic books. I think Paul Rudd will
Except
take
until
you
the
through
very
a lot of
end.
this. Yeah. Stay for the credit scene. Stay for both of them. I know the second one is just about the ant playing drums, but it has some significance in the sense that it is going to go dark now. I think this is the most amount of fun that the MCU is going to have, and that credit scene was to explain that in my view.
The ant playing the drums scene, which everyone saw in the trailer. The other part of that was that you can see as the camera kind of pans around to the ant. You see on the TV, it's like the emergency signal going out. So and you sort of hear that, that tone, the TV tone, which is kind of like eerie, and everything was quiet. So I thought, that's kind of set the tone for what the next
totally it's going to be dark. Yeah. On that note, we hope you enjoyed episode 103. This has been the Lazy Couch podcast. If you want to check us out and find the show notes for this episode or all the other episodes, especially our review of the first Ant-Man in episode 24, go to thelazycouch.com. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Go to iTunes. Tell us what you think. And this has been Kelvin Lee. Kelv out.
Geoff out.
Bro, comic book, flippity flap flap, bits of scripting and a lot of characters from the movies. A human throwing my shield. Oh, Asgard, and a guy with goggles, and a British person, a man with an iron hand. Marvel Studios, Marvel Studios, Marvel Studios.